Hey there folks, I'm Mark in affiliation with Spectrum Pulse, and it's Billboard Breakdown. I don't remember. Alright, let's be real. I'm under no illusions that the slowdown this week is actually gonna last. We're in between album bomb weeks here, and I put money on Tyler the Creator and Doja Cat competing for those next week, and thus any modest reset we're seeing right now with chart position, it's not guaranteed to last under any circumstances. In short, for as much as Billboard doesn't matter as per usual, this week in particular, I really would not put much stock in things going forward, and that starts right at the top 10, especially with Butter by BTS at number 1. And at this point, we all know it's not the radio or the streaming that's propping up this song, it's all the sales. Specifically now a run of single sales that's giving this arguably its most secure lead on top to date. But here's where things get kind of dicey. During the tracking week, Columbia issued an alternative cover art version of this single for more online sales, but they did it with a different ISRC code, which means they can circumvent some of Billboard's bulk buying rules, and again, the army is organized in buying multiple copies, so for which the extent that any of this is considered organic, this is about the furthest thing from it when radio is stalled out and streaming is dropping off. Now, putting aside the fact that this could be kind of fraudulent, I looked up ISRC code rules, and a new code is only supposed to be reissued upon a remix, a significant change in the recording's length, a historical restoration, or a compilation release, although the open question if or how the music industry enforces any of this, that's up to debate. And you know, we're really now at the point to prop up a band's popularity to the general public. The label has convinced stans to buy multiple copies of the exact same song. I don't know, to me it's just starting to seem a little bit sad, and Billboard should be way more embarrassed of this than they actually are. Historically, this will not wind up looking good. We can tell what's going on. If anything, it kind of reminds me of when you got someone who is into min-maxing his character in a tabletop role-playing game to an absurd, overpowered degree by cheesing all the rules. Sure, that character might win, and what you're doing is technically legal, but that will always come up when you talk about that character in the future. And nobody likes you. And it's not even that I feel bad for Olivia Rodrigo, given that she's stranded at number 2 with Good For You. Up in every category, streaming is strong, radio surging, and with this momentum, or if Billboard fixes their rules, this could still go to number 1, mark my words. But it's kind of a shame the rest of the top 10 isn't that interesting. Levitating by Dua Lipa featuring DaBaby actually got the top spot on radio now at number 3, even if it definitely peaked and it looks to be slipping already. Kiss Me More by Doja Cat and SZA looks to be primed for that big album boost next week at number 4, as streaming is up and they're trying to narrow that airplay margin, and that kind of strands Peaches by Justin Bieber featuring Daniel Caesar and Giveon at number 5, mostly here on radio inertia that is dropping away rapidly. Now the problem is that it's also happening for Leave the Door Open by Silk Sonic even faster at number 6, and also for Save Your Tears by The Weeknd and Ariana Grande at number 7, just the same case with more exaggerated degrees. Not sure it's enough for Montero Call Me By Your Name by Lil Nas X to make a run beyond number 8 though. Yeah, airplay, streaming, they're up, but I'm not sure that's enough to do more than just slip past Deja Vu by Olivia Rodrigo at number 9, where it seems like they're letting her radio momentum peter out naturally, especially as she still has a surprising amount of streaming momentum. Finally, we got Astronaut in the Ocean by Masked Wolf at number 10. Even if the sales are still there, radio really took a nosedive this week, so the window might be closed. Just as well, the meme kinda got tired. I'm kinda done putting up with this. And on that note, our losers and dropouts. And in the latter category, we really did not have anything beyond remnants of the past couple of album bombs just falling away. And that's kind of true with the majority of our losers too. From Migos, we saw Straightenin' slip back to 45, Having Our Way with Drake at 49, and Avalanche at 86. And from Polo G, we had No Return with the Kid Laroi and Lil Durk at 72, and Gang Gang with Lil Wayne at 80. Also for Lil Durk, we had How It Feels with Lil Baby at 98. Outside of that, Lost Cause by Billie Eilish is just continuing to tank at 92. Need to Know by Doja Cat fell off the debut to 66. It's going to rebound next week. And Nobody by Dylan Scott fell down to 69 because it looks like Nashville is actually pulling it after its run really didn't do much. I gotta be honest, I barely remember the song. But given that so much album bomb material slipped away for a pretty quiet week without that much in new releases, we actually have a fair number of returns where I don't trust their stability at all. Outside by Mo and OG Bobby Billions at 100, Twerkulator by City Girls at 96, Tell 'Em by Cochise and Snot at 95, For the Gang by 42 Doug and Roddy Ricch at 89, Pick Up Your Feelings by Jasmine Sullivan at 84, Tombstone by Rod Wave at 83, and Chasing After You by Maren Morris and Ryan Hurd at 78. Well, there's some quality here. But the three interesting exceptions come with Come Through by Her featuring Chris Brown at 70. I'm curious how the album impact will boost this in the future. And then What's Next by Drake at 91 and We Are Good by Dua Lipa at 87, where there's a chance they both got just enough points to clinch their year-end list spots at the very bottom with this week, although that could wind up kind of on the margins. But where things get a little bit more weird are our gains here, with a lot of which is country rushing to fill in the gaps for now, and for the most part it's not good. Sure, I don't mind Blame It On You by Jason Aldean at 34, or Things a Man Ought to Know by Lainey Wilson at 58, or even Drunk and I Don't Want to Go Home by Elle King and Miranda Lambert rebounding yet again by 73, because this song does not have any stability. But if the cost is Country Again by Thomas Rhett at 75, Drinkin' Beer, Talkin' God, Amen by Chase Rice and Flora Georgia Line at 64, Single Saturday Night by Cole Swindell at 50, Almost Maybes by Jordan Davis at 43, and Lil Bit by Nelly and Florida Georgia Line surging to 24 on sales. We might have a problem here. Outside of that, well, recovering from the losses, Miss the Rage by Trippie Redd and Playboi Carti hit 82. Follow You by Imagine Dragons rose to 81. Quicksand by Murray actually recovered a bit to 79. And off the debut, we saw You by Regard, Troye Sivan, and Tate McRae rise to 71. Fiel by Los Legendarios, Wizen, and Jay Cortez at 62. And Transparent Soul by Willow and Travis Barker at 76. But then we also got Arcade by Duncan Lawrence continuing up to 61. Looks like Adult Contemporary picked up on this. Lovely. Ski by Young Thug and Gunna pulling up a bit to 56. Build a Bitch by Bella Porch holding steady at 57. Kind of surprised there. And on its continued radio rise, Leave Before You Love Me by Marshmello and the Jonas Brothers, it's at 37. Again, the way it's going, it's gonna be a hit, mark my words. And I'm kind of okay with that. But all this leads to a pretty short, and I gotta admit pretty weird week of new arrivals. Starting off with number 99, My Boy by Elvie Shane.
I could never walk away. Yeah, he's my son and that's my choice. He ain't my blood, but he's my boy.
Not gonna lie, the first thoughts I had when seeing this guy was, that's not a real name, and what's the odds this guy is another utterly forgettable Nashville act for which we're gonna forget in record time? Well, it turns out this guy actually has some prior claims to fame. He was briefly on American Idol in 2016, but this is his first charting single off an EP from this year, even though the song is just over a year old, and, you know, to my surprise, I actually think this is really damn good. The production is surprisingly well balanced, with some textured acoustics and a more developed low end. Shane has a rougher, twangier tone that a lot of his modern peers don't have, and there's a lot less overproduction to clean things up. And most importantly, it's a song that feels a little bit more unique in its subject matter, specifically from the place of being a stepfather and seeing the impact on the kid that's now growing up. And there's a lot of gruff but genuine sweetness to the song that feels very lived in and organic in the right way. Maybe it's a little more low-key as a whole, but as a first impression, yeah, this is excellent. Okay, you got my attention, Elvie Shane. Let's see if this catches on. Really good stuff. Number 94, Working by Tate McRae and Khalid.
But we're not working. Yeah, I told you from the start, I'm not perfect. Yeah, that's why you like me so much. We're not working. We're not working.
Alright, am I the only one who thought this was kind of obvious, especially given the recurrent traffic that Lovely by Billie Eilish and Khalid still picks up? So why not pair him with her ripoff? But alright, Billie's been kind of underwhelming me a bit as of recently, and Tate McRae these days sounds more like BB Rexa anyway, so maybe this might hold up, might be interesting, especially as Khalid has had some okay luck with duets. And you know, if you want to get a song that's as awkwardly constructed as telling someone that your relationship is not working, it might be this one. Once again, Tate McRae finds herself completely overshadowed and outclassed by her co-star in terms of charisma and vocal presence 2 weeks in a row here, but the larger problem is one of tone. In between all the chipper, upbeat tempos, all the dut-dut-does in the vocal line, the slightly off-kilter melody against the weirdly stiff-sounding snap, it seems like it's trying to be breezy or cute, but it doesn't mesh the scene unless their relationship is utterly disposable, which is not an emotion being sold here, and really, the whole breeziness is not all that convincing. Again, it gives me the feeling of a pop song that's being built to push Tate McRae rather than standing on its own. And as such, I've got no interest in going back to it. Next, number 93, Lumberjack by Tyler, the Creator.
Drizzy and told him I had a milli for him. I own my company's full, told him to keep the loan. I took that gold bitch home, niggas was big mad.
So yes, I've heard the new Tyler, the Creator album. I need a little bit more time to fully digest it. I'll be covering it in some form on my main channel after my mid-year list. Just keep that in mind. But this is the song that he rolled out for promo, and I mean, it's good, but I'm not sure how much I can really say about it outside of the context of the album as a whole, because it feels a little bit more like a shorter interlude than a song that properly can stand alone. Now, part of that is the structure of the album, with DJ Drama shouting over everything to give it that 2000s mixtape vibe, only reinforced by the rougher production and that Gravedigger sample. But you know, when you pair it with Tyler, the Creator at his most monotone, it means the song doesn't really punch as hard as it could for me, especially when it feels more like a tangled, uncomfortable sort of flex. Yeah, it's really clever, the many references to Igor winning at the Grammys, but not feeling as celebratory as he was hoping, and he doesn't know how to celebrate anyway, a comeuppance for an audience that it doesn't even really seem to like, and even discomfort with living in California as a whole. And yeah, it's a potent flex. I get how he's pulling it off, but it seems to also consistently undercut itself, and thus without the larger context of the album, I'm not sure I'm into this as much as I might want to be. It's still good though. It'll be nice to talk about it more later on. Just saying. Number 90, Waves by Luke Bryan.
Don't let go, baby, let this summer just keep on coming in waves, keep coming in waves.
Okay, is Luke Bryan just looking to take over for Kenny Chesney now? I mean, he guess he's at that age where he can't make spring break mixtapes anymore, and One Margarita did well last year, so for the deluxe reissue of his latest album, we got this tacked on, and it seems to have a feel of a slightly misty, organ-saturated hookup with some odd synth textures in the background that cannot quite obscure how synthetic this all feels. Coming from Luke Bryan, shocker. But honestly, it reminds me a little bit more of sounds that Jake Owen was doing better 2 years ago, especially as Luke Bryan is trying to sell more of a sensual vibe, which is kind of odd because the song isn't really all that subtle or restrained. So I'm left wondering who this is really for outside of his diehard female fan base that might jump all over this. I mean, for what it's worth, there's less overproduction this time, the mix balance isn't as bad as it has been in the past, but beyond that, it's just kind of forgettable. Gives me very little to say. That's all. Number 85, We Didn't Have Much by Justin Moore.
Had a little bitty house and a lot of love. We had it all when we didn't have much.
Okay, I'm kind of stunned we're still getting singles charting from Justin Moore. For those of you who have not been paying attention, his career has been a bit on the downswing the past couple of years, to the point where he put out a project in April, and I'm not sure anyone really cared all that much, especially as his label tends to be surprisingly decent at promotion, and looks like they're throwing all their weight behind Thomas Rhett right now. But I heard this was going to be a little more neo-traditional, which to me kind of makes sense given the songs of Justin Moore that I can tolerate, and, well, you know what, it is closer to that territory, at least on the hook with all the pedal steel, where it seems like he's really trying to remake parts of Meanwhile Back at Mama's by Tim McGraw from a couple of years ago, but it also kind of clashes a bit with how the verse feels a little bit more modern in their production, and as for the content, I mean, it's not bad, the sort of nostalgic reflection on growing up without a lot of money that can work for me, but the writing feels very list-driven, a little bit more formulaic than it should, and while I buy this a lot more coming from Justin Moore than someone like Thomas Rhett, the composition feeling so by the numbers doesn't really help it stand out for me. I will say this, Justin Moore making something that's passable, that is a step up for him. Really, he could go off the rails in so many ways you don't even know, but you know, I'm not sure I'm really gonna care about it. I will say it's a lot better than number 51, Fancy Like by WOTLKING.
Poppin' entertainment, take her to Wendy's, can't keep her off me. She wanna dip me like them fries in her Frosty.
Let's establish this quickly. The reason this blew up the way it did was thanks to TikTok, not because WOTLKING makes anything close to decent music. And Caitlin Smith is on the exact same label, Shane McAnally, and you can't give her a shred of the marketing you just know will be thrown behind this right now to capitalize on any moment of virality. And that legit pisses me off, because it's not just that she's made some of the best pop country the past couple of years with no charting traction, and really, she could do well in this climate. It's that the label resources are being thrown behind this instead, and it's going to be framed as one of those more bullshit examples of Nashville meritocracy rather than perpetuating a broken status quo. You know, just like how MCA Nashville and how they treated Casey Musgraves in comparison with fucking Sam Hunt. And you know, that's very telling, because WOTLKING sounds like the poor man Sam Hunt here, with his limp, ad-lib inflected faux rap with the leaden bass, formless percussion, and guitars that I really wish had anything close to actual tone or presence, so we don't get the main focus on WOTLKING mugging over how they don't need things fancy like. And I kept waiting for the joke here. I remember when Weird Al did his parody of Whatever You Like by T.I., but I don't think there is a joke all about this girl being all low maintenance and liking Wendy's and Applebee's. I can smell all the slimy brand integration from here, but it's not like this song is trying to be nostalgic about the simpler life like Justin Moore was, or trying to celebrate it like American Kids by Kenny Chesney, or to reference someone on his own label. It's got none of the romance of Caitlin Smith's Cheap Date, which would have been a great single. Instead, it's got this mugging air that completely turns my stomach, and it's just not funny. Especially when we get lines like bougie like Natty and the Styrofoam, or how he describes his girl as having a double wide, talking about getting some Alabama Jamma. I mean, I get this supposed to be kind of homespun and cutesy, which is why there's a fucking TikTok dance for it, but he can't sell that vibe, so it comes across as sleazy in the most incompetent way possible. And given that it now has some sort of virality, we can only hope it fizzles on TikTok before this crap gets a radio push, because apparently Monument can't recognize obvious talent on their own roster of 2 artists from a crack in their ass. So yeah, absolutely one of the worst songs I've heard in 2021. Knowing my luck, it could wind up a hit. We're fucked if it is. And finally, number 39, Ball If I Want To by DaBaby.
How about that bitch with that on in my jumpsuit? Go. Just do what I say and I love you, okay? I get this shit from my uncle. I told Bay get 22 inches of weed tonight. I want to fuck a Rapunzel.
I'm getting the suspicion that DaBaby might be heading into a commercial downturn, because while he managed to salvage things from Blame It On Baby being a pretty bad album, courtesy of Rockstar becoming massive, in between the mediocre music and him taking the side of Tory Lanez over Megan Thee Stallion, which is just so unbelievably stupid to do so publicly when she has thought shit and that Jay-Z connection you want, and Tory Lanez has managed to become irrelevant trash in record time. All of this just screams really bad judgment or a really bad promo team, and now we gotta get to the new music, and this song, it's Bop Part 2, except not as good because the percussion sounds cheap as all hell, DaBaby's rambling flow is really starting to get stale, the faint melodic sample from DA Got That Dope doesn't contribute to the groove, and I just have zero interest listening to DaBaby talking about all the rough sex he's having. What becomes abundantly clear is that once you get past 1 or 2 distinctive lines, the song just becomes so much rote filler, where it doesn't even sound like he cares about what he makes. He put more effort into that guest appearance on Polo G's album than this, and it just feels undercooked and really lazy. I mean, throw it on the pile with the rest of the forgettable DaBaby songs, and that pile's starting to get pretty big, just saying. And that, again, commercial downswing. It's coming. Anyway, this week wound up kind of weird, not all that good. I did not expect the best of the week to go for Elfie Shane from My Boy, but it is probably still the best thing here, especially as that Tyler track works better in the context of the album than on its own, just saying it. Whereas nothing about Fancy Like by WOTLKING works at all. In a just world, Tyler the Creator and Doja Cat will compete with album bombs, and that song is blown off the charts by next week. Even America deserves better than this going viral and becoming the song of the summer right now. But we'll just have to wait and see if that happens. Till then, I'm Mark, you're watching Billboard Breakdown, affiliated with Spectrum Pulse, and I'll see you next time.